Jennifer Streeter from the Battalion joining us as we continue our back to school specials all week, talking to campus reporters from around the country. Jennifer, thank you so much. It's great to see you, and I would imagine this was not the biggest surprise of the offseason. Good afternoon, and tell us all about Haynes King.
Good afternoon, Paul. Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to be here. Yes, you know, it was kind of expected for us here in the Bat Cave, if you will, but we're happy for King. He's going to get the job done. In the spring game, it was seen that he showcased more mobility and was scrambling outside of collapsing pockets, and he is just a speedy quarterback overall. His 40-yard dash time was timed by Texas A&M coaches to be a 4.45, so very impressive. I believe wide receivers average 4.48 in NFL Combine, so that's just an incredibly impressive stat for Haynes King. Jimbo Fisher is still leading it open. He's saying that, you know, things could change, but King is definitely the guy for the season opener against Kent State for sure.
Hold on a second. You know, he names the starter. We've all been waiting, and now he says it could still change. I don't mean to question Jimbo Fisher, but what does that mean?
I think he just wants to make sure that his team knows that he's very disciplined and wants to lead a disciplined offense and know that things are up to change and nothing's ever set in stone, you know?
I understand, and he is the head coach, so he can do whatever he wants. Jennifer, tell us about Haynes King. You mentioned his speed. We know he was a highly recruited athlete out of Longview, but he's waited patiently. I mean, he's still a freshman still, but you know, playing. You know, everybody was waiting for Kellen Mond to finally move on. But what can you tell us in relation to what he's going to look like, and what are fans going to expect from him?
Absolutely. So King actually served as the backup for Kellen Mond last year when he was a redshirt freshman. He completed 2 of 4 passes for 59 yards, including one 42-yard touchdown pass against South Carolina. So he does have some experience in game, which is good. He has, in the media open practices, you know, he's looked good. We've seen him throw some long passes, which, again, he's just looked good. But where his threat really comes is his speed. You know, that 40-yard dash time is just really, really impressive. And I think his speed and his mobility is where he's really going to show off for the Aggies, for sure.
Jennifer, help us understand the campus there in relation to this season, because, you know, we hear from a lot of Aggie fans on this program, and I mean, they really are buying in, and finishing 4th in the country last year probably had something to do with that. But what are you hearing from your friends and the folks you run into on campus?
Certainly, Paul. Everyone's just so happy to be back in Aggie land and have things kind of start back to get back to normalcy and get back to in person. You know, I know here at the Battalion, we're happy to be able to go to media availabilities in person, be able to go to football practices in person and go cover games in person and everything like that. But students are really excited to just get back to classes. I know I'm excited to get back to in-person classes as well.
Yeah, I'm still struggling to think about. Everyone was dealing with hardship last year, but for a college student not to do the normal day-to-day activities of college students, and I'm not, you know, I mean, everyone suffered, but what was that like to suddenly have this experience of a lifetime curtailed?
It was certainly very interesting. You know, we all went to spring break last year, and then we all came back and we all had to suddenly pack up and leave. And also just with sports journalism in general, you know, you have a set schedule of everything. You know when you're going to have previews, you know when you're going to have recaps. And that was something that we kind of struggled with, was not having sports content last year just because of all the cancellations and everything like that. So it was really nice to focus on some feature work last year. But again, everyone's just excited to be back. We're excited to be back. And I'm sure you guys are excited to be back and having college students be in person as well.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, the idea of, you know, we just announced today, you know, our travel schedule for the first week. And you know, every week is, you know, last year was an abomination for everybody. Let's talk a little bit about covering Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies for the Battalion. You mentioned the Bat Cave. I'm just imagining the college. Having spent, I can barely remember my time in those college campus newspapers. But what's it like being part of that organization?
Oh gosh, being a part of the battalion has been amazing. I'm actually one of the co-head sports editors here, and it's just an amazing experience. I owe so much to my predecessor, Hannah Underwood, and to my assistant sports editor and my other co-head sports editor. But covering the Aggies is really just, there's nothing in the world like it. I'm so grateful to be able to do what I do and love what I do. Covering Jimbo is certainly very fun because he's just so knowledgeable, and the quotes he gives are always so incredibly interesting, especially when he talks about Nick Saban in Alabama and things like that.
Yeah, let's continue on that because some coaches are cordial but standoffish. Jimbo Fisher seems like he enjoys the media. I'm sure as a student reporter, it's even more unique. Describe what it's like.
Oh, yes. I've had numerous questions and answers with Jimbo, and he always answers me the same as everyone else. Very, very knowledgeable for sure.
There was a big controversy at Alabama. Maybe it may have been last year, maybe the year before. I think it was last year, where people were calling a reporter called Nick Saban Nick, and one of the elder statesmen of the Alabama media chastised that young reporter. You've referred to him a couple of times as Jimbo. It's hard not to call a guy Jimbo when his name is Jimbo. What's the protocol out there?
Oh, yes. Well, when I'm in the media room, I definitely refer to him as Coach Fisher. But,
Okay.
just kind of talking casually with you, it's so hard not to just say Jimbo because his first name is so interesting.
Jennifer, final thought here before you go. Just tell us about yourself, where you're from, and what you hope to do with your career.
Yes, sir. So I was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I moved to Houston when I was 2 years old. And now I'm just a journalism major here at Texas A&M with minors in sports management and communication. And I have dreams of being a sports journalist and kind of doing exactly what you do with an emphasis on writing as well, just because I really do love to write.
So if you're in one of those interviews in a couple of years and the editor or the at the newspaper or publication or whatever says, what would you like to do in 5 to 10 years, what would your answer be?
I would say I would like to be a sideline reporter with an emphasis in writing as well, for
Well,
sure.
I'll tell you what, I'm all for the writing part, having started in that field. So all the best to you. Look forward to meeting you one day when we get out there. And thanks so much for being a part of our back to school presentation this week.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Paul, and thank you for the opportunity.
You bet. Jennifer Street joining us from the Bat Cave in College Station. We will take a break. More of your phone calls at 855-242-7285. We'll talk to a few other reporters as we continue here on a Wednesday afternoon.